Hello, I'm Les Bennett, and I have the pleasure of hosting the series of Distinguished Investigator videotapes sponsored by the American Association of Pharmaceutical Scientists. The idea behind this series is to document and provide for history information and direct contact with those outstanding scientists who over the years have led to our field and the impact which we have had both in terms of drug development, drug delivery, and the importance of pharmaceutical scientists in the United States and around the world. And today it is my pleasure to have the opportunity to interview Dr. Felix Theeuwes, who is the Chairman of the Board and Chief Scientist and co-founder of Direct Corporation. Felix, a pleasure to have you here with us today.
Pleasure is mine, thank you.
So Felix's training, he's from Belgium originally and went to the Catholic University of Louvain and was a physicist and got his, I think, undergraduate and graduate degree in physics.
That's correct, yes.
And so why don't you tell us how you got into the pharmaceutical sciences?
So when I finished with this Doctor of Science degree, I had the offer to stay as an assistant at the university, but at the same time there was an offer from the University of Kansas from Richard Bierman and in statistical mechanics, and he wanted somebody to measure the thermodynamic properties of noble gases, liquid krypton and liquid xenon, because those would be the closest to be able to match the simple theory of the Perkins-Yevik equation of state. So I went to Kansas with the family in 1966 and built this apparatus to measure the thermodynamic properties of liquid krypton and xenon. Took me 2 years to do that all by myself, and then measured those the densities of those liquids up to 30,000 psi, pound per square inch, at temperatures between 100 and 200 Kelvin, something like that. And so from there we wrote a series of papers. And at that time was the unique, because this was the first time that these measurements were ever done, and Richard was quite happy with that. But he decided then to go on sabbatical leave and eventually take a permanent job in Australia. And so then he introduced me to Takiguchi, and this is how I actually ended up in the field of pharmaceutical sciences.
So what did Tak want? So we've got this physicist working on thermodynamics of noble gases. So
right.
What does Tak see that he wants you to be involved in?
Well, you know, at the Vietnam War had just finished in 1970 or thereabouts, and it was very difficult to find a job. And even though he was offering me a job, I tried to deny it, and I said, you know, I know nothing about drugs, Tak. He said, Felix, it's all about thermodynamics. And so he had just taken a job as Regents Professor of Chemistry and Pharmacy at the University of Kansas, and also as Vice President for Research for Alza Corporation, which was founded in 1968. So he thought that to build these novel drug delivery systems, he needed a scientist of every discipline, and I was a physicist that he wanted to have. He gave me a few problems to solve, and I thought that was quite reasonable. And I joined the company as a consultant in February, and totally as a full-timer in August of 1970. And so that was my start in the pharmaceutical field.
So Alza at that time was only in Kansas, or was it also in California?
It's actually at headquarters in Palo Alto, California, but Alex had built Tak a laboratory in Lawrence, Kansas, because Tak said, you know, I can't come to Palo Alto. Alex said, no problem, I'll build your laboratory in Lawrence, Kansas. And so he was the director of the institute, and then surrounded him with about 30 scientists at the time to start the field of drug delivery. Of course, Tak had done some terrific work, as you know, with his work on the release characteristics of matrix pharmaceuticals.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt what you're most famous for. Felix has over 210 patents, and I didn't read them all in preparation for this interview. But what you're most famous for, I think, would be the Alzette mini pump and the Oros drug delivery system. So give us the time frame. I mean, what did you do first